Hey, Critical Analysis, this is your video for week 8, which runs from March 8th through the 14th, which means that after this week, we are halfway done with the course. This also means that spring break is almost here. Your spring break runs from March 15th through 21st. During that time, I will not have any new weeks or folders open. But anyone needing to catch up on mastery skills, that would be a good time if you're wanting to try to get something done over spring break to kind of utilize for that. So, speaking of mastery skills, if I go into the content area, here is our mastery skills. Remember, there are 10 skills in here, and you have to complete all 10 with an 80% average total in order to pass the class, because you have to get an 80% in the class to pass. And 25% of your grade comes from these mastery skills. That does not mean you have to get an 80% on every single individual skill. So let's say for whatever reason on one of them you get a 60%. That's not going to be the end all say all whatever. You can still have a higher average if you do better on the rest of the skills. Not only that, some of you have not done any skills at all, so I want to remind you, I have videos in here to help you. I have the first 4 videos already uploaded in here and ready to go. They're open. The context, topics and main ideas, supporting details, and inference are all open. Some of you have been working very diligently on getting those done. Some of you have none done at all. So I will be sending kind of reminders like I do with the assignments just to get in there and use my videos, because I usually will do anywhere from 7 to 8 questions, which will help guarantee for the most part at least an 80% on these questions, because most of them will have either 9 or 10 questions per MSA, and I do a majority of them with you, and then I leave a couple for you to do on your own. So I am seeing people get mostly 80s, 90s, and 100s on these videos on these mastery skills because they're using my video to help guide them through. And you can see I already have chapter 6 through 10, the skills that align. I have videos already uploaded and ready to go for those as well, and I will open them as we discuss them. So that's my little plug for mastery skills. Please make sure you're working on those. Again, those will be open and available throughout spring break if you need any catching up to do on those particular assignments. Now we are going to be, as I mentioned, in week 8. And if you paid attention, or if you noticed, week 8 was already open in week 7, because part of your assignment in week 7 was to fill out the chapter 1 through 5 vocabulary study guide in preparation for your 1 through 5 vocabulary test. So this was open, and you could have clicked right into the materials folder, and there's the study guide right there. And so I was kind of advocating for you to take some time to go over those words so that when it came time for the actual 1 through 5 test, it wouldn't be quite as much to prepare for if you already spent a little bit of time in week 7. So the focus of this video will be going over these words, the chapter 1 through 5 test, and then the discussion post for this week. So once you click on that, it'll download your study guide. So here this is right here, and I'm just going to go over the words just as a reminder, refresher as you get ready to take this 1 through 5 test. All right, so by the end of chapter 5, you would have gone over 100 words already, and hopefully you can tell just by looking at the study guide, there are not 100 words on this study guide. There's not even half of that many words on the study guide. So hopefully that helps kind of relieve the fact that you're not going to be tested over 100 words. You're going to be tested over, approximately 35. So here are the words from chapter 1. So chapter 1, this is going back to the end of January, which might feel like quite a bit ago, end of January, beginning of February. We have the word accommodation, which is the academic assistance. So if you had a 504 or an IEP in high school, accommodation is extra test time, quiet room for testing, a note taker, those kind of things that can help you succeed academically. Annotations are the marginal notes that you would make literally in the margins of a text. They allow you to interact with the text. They are things like maybe the main idea, a definition, a question that just allows you to kind of help with that process of reading. Commencement literally means beginning, although in this case we're talking about a graduation type ceremony. Criteria are standards or objectives in which you need to either meet or achieve in order to qualify for something. So if you want an A on a paper, the teacher might give you a rubric and say, okay, here's the criteria. Here's the things you have to do in order to get that A. Or for a job posting, here's the criteria, the things you have to know or do or say in order to get that job. Default was in the context of financial aid. It means to not pay back your loans in a timely fashion, so it can hurt your credit score, it can hurt your availability to get loans in the future. Disqualified means you are no longer eligible, and this was also in the context of financial aid. Predictive reading is right there in its name. To predict what you're reading, it allows you to make predictions so that you are, previewing, you're thinking ahead, and you're laying that base for further comprehension. Prerequisite, the prefix pre means before. Prerequisite is a course you have to take before moving on to another course. For instance, our class Critical Analysis is a prerequisite for classes like psychology. Syllabus is a course overview or outline. It lets you know, what's the calendar, the instructor name, the assignments, so it just gives you that overview of the course. And then transcript is kind of like a report card at the college level. It tells you what classes you took, the grades you earned in those classes, the credits, and then ultimately the degree. All right, Chapter 2, now we're talking about around the second week of February. Accolades are those things that you are given as like praise. So some kind of recognition, whether it's an actual reward, award, or just maybe like an attaboy type thing. Arduous means very difficult. If you have an arduous task, it's not going to be easily accomplished. It is difficult or maybe complex to do. Clairvoyant means to predict or see the future. Clairvoyance, someone who is clairvoyant, means that they can or claim to be able to see the future. Diligent is very hardworking, put a lot of effort, you follow through. Feedback, hopefully we're familiar with this. Anytime you turn in an assignment for most classes, you're going to get some kind of feedback, whether it's a letter grade, a number, or like actual, written comments that allow you to know what could go better, what was done well. So that's feedback. Pittance is a very small amount of something. It's not always related to money, but it typically is in that conversation, like a pittance of pay. And then subservient is to be under, often used in the context of an employment situation. Someone might be subservient to their boss, or a quiet employee might be subservient to a more aggressive employee. Okay, now we're moving on to Chapter 3. Chapter 3 was like middle of February, getting toward the end of February. An advocate or advocacy means you are for something, you believe in something, so maybe you petition for it, you support it with your time, your energy, your money. Destitute means very poor or poverty-stricken. Edible is something that can be eaten. It is safe to consume, to eat. Continued here at the bottom here. We have metabolism, which is the rate of which your body is able to turn, what you eat into energy, and how quickly you can burn those calories and that fat off. And then palate refers to kind of like your taste buds. Do you have a sophisticated palate? Do you have a more simple palate? Do you prefer sweet, salty, that kind of thing? All right, coming around to Chapter 4, which is hopefully pretty familiar because this is the last week of February is when we went over these words. Capitalist was a society or a person in which they are concerned with the making of money in terms of like making money, earning money, supply, demand, market analysis, that kind of stuff. Whereas, capitalist society has a lot of private businesses, people can own and run their own business. Climate is not just temperature related, it is the pattern of temperature in a certain area. So it's not just, the one day it's 40 degrees, the next day, that's more temperature. Climate is that pattern of temperature over a certain period of time in a certain area. Deplete or depletion is the using up of something. In this chapter, we talked about the depletion of resources, to use up resources. Greenhouse gases are those toxic type elements, different kinds of gases that are like methane that are released into the air that can cause problem, and they talked about like the greenhouse effect, which was really a concern in the 80s and 90s. It's still an issue, and this chapter talked about like how we can lessen our carbon footprint and help with that. Incentive is kind of like your motivation. Why are you doing this? What's the incentive? Is the incentive a raise? Is the incentive a grade? What is the motivation or the benefit? Preserve means to keep intact, to keep. If you want to preserve something, you're trying to hold on to maybe its original place or its original form. And then toxic was, something that is like a pollutant, something that it could be like a toxic actual element. Pollution is toxic. It can be a person, someone who might have a toxic personality, and it kind of just pollutes people around them. All right, Chapter 5, hopefully the most familiar since this was just the first week of March and the most recent set of vocabulary terms. We have the word capital, which is just another way of saying money or assets. We have resilient, which is to show that you are determined and maybe there's some setbacks, but you keep working toward those. Solitary just means alone or individual. And then trend or trending is like what is popular, what is currently going on, what's the topic of discussion. So that is a run through of your vocabulary, 1 through 5. Whenever you feel comfortable, then you'll go back into the week 8 and you'll go into the assignment folder. You'll see that these are grayed out because I am recording this in week 7, so they're not available to you at this moment, but they will be in week 8. So here's the chapter 1 through 5 test and Dropbox. You will open up the chapter 1 through 5 test. Here is the chapter 1 through 5 test. It's going to look similar to your quizzes, just a longer format. So part A is short answer. So just make sure that you answer each question. And please make sure you're using your own words here so that you are responding in a way that you would use the word based on the context in which we have been talking about it. So make sure that if there are 2 parts, for instance, this question right here, what does it mean to have a product or idea trending? Give an example of something trending. There's 2 parts to that question. So just make sure that you answer each part of the question if it requires more than one response. Usually a sentence will do. So make sure that you're responding in a complete sentence. If you need to change the format of the word like preserve to preserving, that kind of thing, that's fine. Part B, I've had to make note of this on multiple quizzes. Normally only one is correct, but in this quiz, in this test right here, it tells you 2 of them are correct. So please do not write correct more than twice. You will already be on the wrong track, so to speak. So 2 of the sentences are correct as written. So what you have to do is find, however you approach it, find the 2 that are correct. They're okay the way they are, and just write the word correct. And then the rest, leave the underlined word alone. Leave it in the sentence and adjust the rest of the sentence somehow. Just adding the word not does not always fix the sentence. So you need to kind of be a little bit more creative. Take some words out, add some words, twist some things around, rewrite a portion of it, whatever you need to do. Okay, that is part B. And then part C is just fill in the blank. You will not use all of those words, so you will put those there. However you like to do this, some people like to print this off, write on it, scan it, and send it back in. Other people like to type right on the test. It is completely up to you how you do that. I am fine grading it either way. When you're done, you'll go in here in your Dropbox and you will submit it. This is due by Sunday, March 14th, the last day before spring break officially begins. The second and other assignment for this week is your discussion board. So this is like a normal week for your discussion. You have to post your original response by Wednesday, March 10th for week 8 attendance. And it's kind of just like a check-in point. Now that we're halfway through the semester, what's going well and what needs to be improved so far in the course. This will help me kind of make adjustments as needed in the second part of the semester. Normally, this class is not an online class. Usually it's maybe taught as a Web 2, meaning we have some online time and we have some face-to-face time. COVID has pushed this class into fully online, and so that is kind of out of this class's element. And so, the fall is planned to be kind of back to normal, thankfully, but we still have 8 more weeks of this online format. So if there's anything that's going well or anything you think would be nice that I could change up for the second half of the semester, let me know. I am open to, those suggestions. Or if you don't want to talk about that, you can just talk about how you're doing now that we're halfway through the semester. How are your goals going? How is your progress, seen through to week 8? So again, post that by Wednesday for week 8 attendance. All right, so quick recap. In week 8, you are completing your chapter 1 through 5 vocabulary test, submitting by Sunday, the 14th, and then you're responding to your original post in the discussion forum by Wednesday, the 10th. And as I mentioned, nothing else will open over spring break. You can work on mastery skills if needed, but week 9 will open back on Monday, March 22nd. So if I don't hear from you or talk to any of you individually, I hope you all have a great week 8 and have a wonderful and safe spring break. Bye.